So it's taken me a bit of time, but I've figured it out. How to use the Gigcaster with a looper, bring the looper back into the Gigcaster so we can record the whole thing. Now for this, you're gonna need a couple of things. And also, it only works if you're recording a stereo out. What I mean by that is most loopers are fine, but with some loopers, like the RC600, the 505 Mark II, they can actually route out to multiple places, but to get it in back into the Gigcaster, it's gotta be in stereo. Anyway, having said all of that, I'm gonna show you how to do this step by step. Let's go. So step one is actually plugging your instruments into here. Obviously, if you wanna plug your guitar in to the front, using number one, or plug it into the back, you can't do both. But let's just say this is guitar and this is vocal. Make sure you've got your inputs the way you want them. So this is my guitar on channel 1. We've got it down as guitar. We've also got input number 2 as my microphone, which is just there. So we have our guitar and our microphone plugged into the Gigcaster so we can use the effects as normal. And what we need to do is get this out to a looper. And this is where most people would use the main outs of the Gigcaster to plug into the looper, but we're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is click on mute, and we're gonna mute these channels. That sounds a bit weird, but please bear with me. Because what we're also gonna do is we're gonna press on the headphones. What this does is it sends it out to the headphones specifically, but it's not sending it out to the main left and right, as in the main out of the Gigcaster. So what we're gonna use is we're now gonna use the headphone out. So we're gonna use the headphone out to go into the looper. So for this part, you're gonna need a cable. Now it depends on the looper that you've got, but normally you're gonna need a TRS, that's a stereo mini jack cable, into a left and a right 1/4" jack. And we're gonna plug it into here. Now, of course, if I want to go into an RC500, I could plug it into the ins and outs of there. Or if we've got something smaller like the RC5, again, that's got 2 ins. So I have this cable. This is a TRS mini jack to phono with 2 connectors that go jack 1/4". So this end is actually going to be plugged into the Gigcaster on headphone 1, and these 2 are going to be plugged into my looper. Now again, it doesn't matter which looper it is, as long as it's got a left and a right or an A and a B, and then you're going to get a stereo out. Or what you can do with the Gigcaster is you could pan things left and right. So say, for example, on the left, you've got the microphone, and on the right, you've got the guitar, the other way around, however you want it. Now, just before we get into the routing of the Gigcaster and the looper, this video is sponsored, and it's sponsored by our friends over at DistroKid. DistroKid are a music distribution company, so if you've got music that you want to put out there in the world, then DistroKid can help you. Most music distributors charge you per release. So if you release a single, they charge you. If you release an EP, they charge you. If you release an album, guess what? They charge you. But DistroKid don't do this. They charge you one price per year, which starts at $22.99. And with the link that's on the screen, it's also in the description box, you can get 7% off your first annual membership with DistroKid. So if you're thinking of making music in 2024 and releasing it out to the world, to places like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Pandora, Deezer, Tidal, Facebook, even TikTok and Instagram, then click the link and start distributing your music today. Thank you very much to DistroKid for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get into routing. So we're sending our inputs over to the headphone out, and we're plugging our out to the looper here. So this goes out to these 2 cables, and then this is going into your looper. So for this example, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug these in left and right into here. So now we have our main output, but this is not going to our main output. It's not going out to a PA or a speaker. It's going back into the Gigcaster. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug this into inputs 3 and 4. Now at this point, this is totally up to you, but this is your guitar, this is your vocal, and we can see that there. And then inputs 3 and 4 are the looper. So we can either do one of 2 things. We can either have them as a independent left and right, if you're keeping everything as a left and a right, like a guitar and a vocal, depending on how you've got your looper routed. The alternative, if it's just stereo out, is we can knock off number 4, go to channel 3, and make this a stereo channel, so it's 3 and 4 all as one thing. This one we are not going to mute, and we are not going to send to the headphones, because that would be then causing a loop feedback, not the kind of looping you want. And then the output of your guitar and vocal is actually dictated here, and we're going to use this one, which is headphone number 1. Then all you need to do is plug the Gigcaster into your PA, wherever that is, and then you're plain sailing, and that's absolutely everything. Let me recap for this for you. You're actually getting the audio being sent through, and you can still use the effects, no problem. You've got the EQ, the effects, and everything that you want. going into the different channels. It's then coming out through the headphone output, not the main PA, because you've got them switched off. And then you've got this going out to your looper. It's going into the looper through these connections here, and that's the main PA going back in on channels 3 and 4, which I've actually got now set up as a stereo channel, so it's just this fader. So if you actually come out of here, you'll notice fader number 4 is ZZZ. It's literally asleep, which means you can't do anything with this, it's asleep. So this one is now stereo out, and then we just use the master out to then send it all out to the main, no problem. And the great thing about this is you can control the master of everything with your guitar, your vocal, your looper. And then you've also got this one here where you've got your main out going to the PA, and you can record everything. Now this has actually worked, and I've done this on a live stream and I have no complaints whatsoever. Now the question will arise, what if I've got more than 2 things? And at the moment, that's the limitation. We can only put 2 things through. Now you can still put things through the looper naturally anyway. So if you've got maybe a different microphone just for looping, and it's still gonna come into the Gigcaster and through the PA so you can record it, but it's not gonna go through the Gigcaster for the effects. It's only gonna be captured by the looper and then the output of the looper going into the Gigcaster. But for those who've got the Gigcaster and have been asking, can we use the effects with a looper? This is the answer for now. Should Boss do a firmware update to change things, then I'll update this video accordingly. Now, if you're not familiar with the Gigcaster, have a look at this video right here, and this will actually take you through the overview of what it can do and how it can change your live performance.